the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark, unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No mic, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune and turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. In shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go.
Knowing the theory of anything is contrasted with know-how in all the arts. Beethoven. Michelangelo. Shakespeare, all great exponents of know-how, probably knew how to manipulate their instruments to achieve the desired results long before they knew the theory of their art. Perhaps some of them never bothered to learn the theory. On the other hand, there are many who know the theory better than these, but who lack know-how. Although we acquire the skill of understanding words by experience, so that we know the correlations between them and things, between words and other words, and between words and feelings and actions, we do not do it by inductive reasoning. Nor must we think that we do it by deductive reasoning. In the main, words are cues rather than clues. Colin Murray Turbayne, The Myth of Metaphor, 1962, 8 pages 90-91. Colin Murray Turbayne, 1916-2006, was an Australian philosopher, best known for his work on George Berkeley and the role of metaphor in language and thought. He spent much of his academic career at the University of Rochester and authored the influential book The Myth of Metaphor. Turbayne argued that metaphors are essential to rich understanding in language, and he was the first to emphasize their central importance in Berkeley's philosophy. Colin Murray Turbayne was born on February 7, 1916, in Tanny Morell, Queensland, Australia. His father, David Livingston Turbayne, was a banker, and his mother, Alice Everine Leahy, came from a pioneering Queensland family. He received his early education at the Church of England Grammar School in Brisbane, where he excelled as a cricketer and served as head prefect. Turbayne earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Queensland in 1940 and an MA in 1946, with his master's thesis focusing on Berkeley's philosophy. During World War II, he worked for Australian intelligence in the Pacific War Theatre, eventually serving as Chief of Staff for Australian intelligence to Douglas MacArthur in various Pacific operations. In 1940, he married Ailsa Cremer, and they remained together for 51 years, raising two sons, Ron and John, until her passing in 1992. After the war, in 1947, he emigrated to the United States to continue his academic studies, earning both his MA and PhD in philosophy from the University of Pennsylvania in 1950. Three Dialogues between Hylas and Philonous by George Berkeley, editor Colin Murray Turbayne, 1954. This was an early and significant editorial project for Turbayne. Berkeley's Three Dialogues is a cornerstone of his philosophy, presenting his immaterialist views that reality consists only of minds and their ideas through a lively debate between a materialist Hylas and an immaterialist Philonous. Berkeley and Russell on Space 1954. This early article likely explores the contrasting views of space held by George Berkeley and Bertrand Russell. Berkeley famously argued against the existence of absolute space, seeing it as a mental construct or a relation between perceived ideas. Russell, a 20th-century logician and philosopher, also had complex views on space, often linked to his work in logic and mathematics. Kant's Refutation of Dogmatic Idealism 1955, this paper delves into Immanuel Kant's response to earlier forms of idealism, particularly the dogmatic idealism he attributed to Berkeley. Kant famously argued for transcendental idealism, where objects of experience conform to the structure of our minds, but maintained a distinction from Berkeley's view by positing the existence of things in themselves noumena that are unknowable. Turbayne's academic career spanned over 3 decades, marked by influential positions and significant intellectual output. He began as an assistant professor of philosophy at the University of Washington 1950 to 1955 and then served as an assistant professor of speech at the University of California, Berkeley 1955 to 1957. The influence of Berkeley's science on his metaphysics 1956. This article is crucial for understanding the integrated nature of Berkeley's thought. It argues that Berkeley's engagement with the science of his time, particularly optics and the Newtonian physics of motion, profoundly shaped his metaphysical conclusions about the nature of reality. Berkeley saw the regularities of nature as a visual language from God, a view influenced by his scientific observations. A treatise concerning the principles of human knowledge by George Berkeley, editor Colin Murray Turbayne 1957. Following the dialogues, Turbayne edited Berkeley's Principles, which is Berkeley's systematic exposition of his immaterialist philosophy. In this work, Berkeley famously argues esse est percipi, to be is to be perceived, asserting that the physical world exists only as ideas in minds. In 1957, he joined the University of Rochester, where he spent the bulk of his career, becoming an associate professor of philosophy in 1957 and a full professor in 1962. He was ultimately appointed professor emeritus in 1981. During his time at Rochester, Turbayne was a highly respected scholar, recognized with prestigious fellowships including a Fulbright Fellow, a Guggenheim Fellow, and an NEH Senior Fellow, along with numerous grants. Grosseteste and an Ancient Optical Principle 1959, this article reveals Turbayne's interest in the history of science, particularly optics, extending far beyond Berkeley. Robert Grosseteste was a prominent 13th-century English statesman, scholastic philosopher, and theologian, known for his work on optics and the nature of light. His most celebrated work, The Myth of Metaphor 1962, stands as a seminal contribution to the philosophy of language. In this groundbreaking book, Turbayne argued that the pervasive mechanistic worldview, largely perpetuated by the philosophies of Descartes and Newton, was fundamentally based on a misapplication of metaphor. He contended that the concept of the world as a great machine, while a powerful and useful metaphor, had been mistakenly taken as literal truth, leading to a limited and misleading understanding of reality. Turbayne passionately argued that metaphor is not merely an ornamental flourish of language but an essential and indispensable tool for achieving richness and depth of understanding in any language. He posited that philosophical and scientific explanations often operate through sword crossing, where concepts from one category are applied to another, and that understanding these metaphorical foundations is crucial to avoiding philosophical pitfalls. A Bibliography of George Berkeley, 1933 to 1962-1963 and a Bibliography of George Berkeley, 1963 to 1974-1977, and a bibliography of George Berkeley 1963 to 1979-1982, these bibliographies are invaluable scholarly tools. They demonstrate Turbayne's commitment to facilitating research on Berkeley by systematically cataloging publications on the philosopher over specific periods. Such bibliographical work is essential for researchers to navigate the vast secondary literature, track the evolution of Berkeley scholarship, and identify key debates and interpretations. Their regular updates show a sustained dedication to the field. Works on Vision by George Berkeley, ed. Colin Murray Turbayne 1963. This collection would have brought together Berkeley's important writings on the nature of visual perception, such as an essay towards a new theory of vision 1709 and the theory of vision, or visual language, shewing the immediate presence and providence of a deity, vindicated and explained 1732. Berkeley's theories of vision were revolutionary, arguing that we directly perceive ideas of sight, which are signs that suggest ideas of touch like distance and solidity, rather than directly perceiving external objects. Principles, Dialogues, and Philosophical Correspondence by George Berkeley, ed. Colin Murray Turbayne 1965. This more comprehensive collection allowed Turbayne to present a broader view of Berkeley's philosophical output, including not only his major works but also selections from his correspondence. Philosophical correspondence often reveals the nuances of a philosopher's thought, their responses to critics, and the evolution of their ideas. The Origin of Berkeley's Paradoxes 1966. This article likely investigates the roots of the seemingly paradoxical conclusions that Berkeley's immaterialist philosophy led to, such as the idea that trees in a quad cease to exist when no one is perceiving them. Turbayne would have analyzed how Berkeley's initial premises and logical deductions, while consistent within his system, often led to counterintuitive results that puzzled his contemporaries and continue to provoke discussion. Visual Language from the Verbal Model 1969 and Visual Language 1971. These articles directly relate to Turbayne's interest in the language of vision, a concept he prominently explored in relation to Berkeley. They likely examine how visual perception can be understood as a form of language, where sensory experiences function as signs that convey meaning, much like words. Turbayne explored the analogy between visual perception and verbal language, suggesting that our experience of the world is structured by a grammar of visual cues that we learn to interpret. Berkeley, Principles of Human Knowledge, Text, and Critical Essays, ed. Colin Murray Turbayne 1970. This volume represents a significant step beyond simply presenting Berkeley's text. By including critical essays, Turbayne curated a collection of scholarly interpretations and analyses of the principles alongside the original work. Berkeley's Metaphysical Grammar 1970. This essay, included in his edited volume on Berkeley's Principles, expands on Turbayne's view of how Berkeley's philosophical system itself operates like a language. He likely argued that Berkeley's metaphysics employs a kind of grammar where certain terms and concepts are used in specific, perhaps unconventional, ways to construct his immaterialist view. Beyond his work on metaphor, Turbayne was a leading authority on the philosophy of George Berkeley. He dedicated a substantial portion of his research to interpreting and editing Berkeley's works, playing a key role in sustaining interest in Berkeley's ideas during the mid-20th century. Turbayne was the first commentator to explicitly recognize and emphasize the central importance of metaphor within Berkeley's philosophy, particularly in relation to Berkeley's theories of vision and relative motion. He showed how Berkeley, in his attempts to clarify philosophical concepts, often employed metaphors that were later misunderstood or taken literally by his critics. Lending Philoneus a Hand, the Berkeley, Plato, Aristotle Connection 1982, this article explores the philosophical lineage and connections between Berkeley and two giants of ancient Greek philosophy, Plato and Aristotle. Philoneus is Berkeley's mouthpiece in his three dialogues, representing the immaterialist view. Turbayne likely argued that Berkeley drew inspiration or found parallels with certain aspects of Platonic idealism, e.g. the world of ideas or Aristotle's metaphysics, even while developing his own distinct system. His other significant works include Editing Berkeley, Critical and Interpretive Essays 1982 and Authoring Metaphors for the Mind, The Creative Mind and Its Origins 1991. In Metaphors for the Mind, he delved deeper into the historical traditions of philosophy, tracing the influence of Platonic metaphors on later thinkers like Berkeley and Kant, and examining how various models of the mind, such as the substance and attribute theory, arose from metaphorical foundations. Hume's influence on Berkeley 1985. This title is particularly intriguing because David Hume, a later empiricist philosopher, is often seen as developing empiricism beyond Berkeley's conclusions, leading to skepticism. However, this article suggests Turbayne explored ways in which Hume might have influenced Berkeley. Given the chronology, Hume was younger and published later. Turbayne might have examined how Berkeley's work anticipated or provided a foundation for some of Hume's ideas, or perhaps how later interpretations of Hume's empiricism shed new light on Berkeley's own arguments. Colin Murray. Turbayne's contributions extended beyond his publications. In the early 1990s, he and his wife, Ailsa, established the International Berkeley Essay Prize competition in collaboration with the Philosophy Department at the University of Rochester. His work on metaphor remains highly influential in philosophy, linguistics, and cognitive science, providing a framework for understanding how figurative language shapes our perception and interpretation of the world. Colin Murray. Turbayne passed away on May 16, 2006, in Queensland, Australia, leaving behind a rich intellectual legacy that continues to resonate in contemporary philosophical discourse. It is a confusion to present the items of one sort in the idioms of another without awareness. For to do this is not just to cross two different sorts, it is to confuse them. It is to mistake, for example, the theory for the fact, the procedure for the process, the myth for history, the model for the thing and the metaphor for the face of literal truth. Colin Murray. Turbayne. The Myth of Metaphor 1962 1p4.
Mics on the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No light, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Hidden in shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just the beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, the world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go. Pure and raw. And feel. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's
present day.